Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, where imagination floats you softly into dreamland. Breathe, rest, and sleep.
Hello, and welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. In this gentle space, you're invited to set aside your worries and ease into a realm where shimmering waters cradle ancient secrets. Tonight, you will be journeying to the drowsy, dreamlike city of Atlantis, drifting through coral forests and gliding among the soft lull of ocean currents. Take a moment to adjust your shoulders, letting each inhale fill your lungs with calm. Let the exhale carry away any trace of tension that might linger. Feel the steady rise and fall of your chest as you settle into stillness. The gentle hum of your heart grounds you here, preparing you for a soothing descent into the deep. As you breathe in, you might notice the warmth in your body, an invitation to relax deeper with every beat. This is your time to rest, your time to let go. Soon, you will find yourself drifting among the coral reefs of an otherworldly sea, guided by the hush of tranquil tides. Draw in one more deep breath, inviting every cell of your body to feel soft, light, and unburdened. Imagine, if you will, the cool darkness just behind your closed eyelids, the kind of peaceful dimness that encourages a slow, sweet release of any thoughts that linger. Let the quiet rhythms of your breath transport you ever closer to that serene place where dreams unfold. Feel the air fill your chest, then slip out in a gentle stream. Notice how your limbs grow heavier, as if cradled by the very waters of an ancient, mystical ocean. With each exhale, let your mind wander a little further away from the busyness of the day. Let the gentle promise of Atlantis call out to you as you prepare to drift into the story that will unfold. Soon, the soft sparkle of coral-laced waters will envelop you, and you can simply rest, free of worry, in the comforting hush of an underwater sanctuary. Far below the surface of the calmest sea, the city of Atlantis slumbered in a realm of perpetual twilight. It was not a city of abrupt lines or lofty, unreachable spires, but rather a collection of fluid, graceful shapes hewn from ocean stone and trimmed with sweeping arches of coral. Blue-green lights shimmered along the pathways as luminous sea plants swayed gently in the current. In the heart of this underwater haven, a young Atlantean named Aria could be seen wandering along a quiet street, lulled by the ebb and flow of the ancient tides. The delicate swirl of her pale blue cloak trailed behind her, blending seamlessly with the drifting strands of seaweed that danced in the water's mild currents. Every so often, Aria paused, noticing the gentle glow emanating from the twisting coral that lined the walkways. Each coral branch gave off a soft, pulsing light, as though reflecting the calm heartbeat of the ocean itself. The reefs in Atlantis were a tapestry of gentle pinks, turquoise, and violet, each shade weaving a story of tranquility that whispered to anyone who drew near. As Arya passed, shoals of tiny fish parted in graceful arcs, their scales catching slivers of the faint light. Beyond the coral archways, ancient stone columns stood tall, etched with symbols that spoke of a time when Atlantis floated above the waves. Now, it sat at rest in an ocean cradle, a quiet sanctuary for those who lived harmoniously among the gentle creatures of the depths. Occasionally, a ray of sunlight managed to pierce the surface far above, scattering shifting patterns of gold across the towers below. The beams would glide across the coral in lazy ribbons, sending glimmers of brightness to ripple through the water. At times, a passing whale song might resonate through Atlantis, a sign of migrating giants visiting from distant seas. Arya found comfort in these sounds, the slow melodic calls weaving through her thoughts like a lullaby meant to soothe all who heard it. There was no rush or worry in this underwater realm, only the peaceful rhythms of the ocean's slow pulse. Today, Arya's thoughts drifted toward the coral gardens, nestled just beyond the city's edge. These gardens had been cultivated over centuries by Atlantean caretakers who honored the reefs as living guardians of their world. She had heard stories from the oldest citizens, those who still remembered fables of surface stars and the glimmering moon, about how the coral reefs served as silent watchers, filtering the ocean's current and holding ancient knowledge within their reefs. With a quiet sense of purpose, Arya ventured toward the outskirts, where the coral grew tall and lush, forming winding paths that glowed with subtle phosphorescence. She passed under an ornate archway, carved from white stone, its edges long since softened by the gentle erosion of the sea. The gateway led to a wide corridor of coral spires, each formation rising from the sandy floor like a tower in a dream. Arya glided silently, her feet making the faintest disturbances in the soft sediment. Schools of small, translucent fish darted around her ankles, then vanished into hidden alcoves within the coral. Iridescent anemones and feathery sea plants lined the path, swaying gently, as if bowing in welcome. Though the city had grown accustomed to a life beneath the waves, it maintained an air of wonder and gentle mystery. In the hush of that place, time flowed differently. Moments lengthened into warm, languid stretches, where the hush of the ocean current was the only sound. Arya felt each beat of her heart align with that gentle thrum, as though her body echoed the ocean's lull. Even the light seeping in felt unhurried, drifting through the water like a slow exhale. Beyond the corridor of coral spires, she arrived at a small clearing beneath the towering reefs. Here, the water felt both infinite and comforting, as though every shimmering ripple held the promise of quiet hours and whispered stories. The faint rustle of seagrass stood out against the broader silence, accompanied by the occasional flick of a curious fish's tail. From somewhere deeper within the labyrinth of reefs, a gentle glow invited Arya to continue forward. Drawn by its warm hue, she let her fingertips trail along the coral's ridges, guided by the pulsing light. Eventually, she reached a hidden courtyard bordered by curved coral walls. In the center stood an ancient statue, worn smooth by centuries of ocean currents. Though partially covered in clinging algae, the statue's shape remained clear. A figure with arms outstretched, as though welcoming all who approached. Around the statue's base, clusters of sea pearls glowed with a gentle luminescence, their soft light reflecting off the statue's surface in dancing patterns. Arya paused there, transfixed by the sight, sensing a peaceful energy in this secluded place. The courtyard itself felt like a secret known to few, a sheltered spot where the burdens of daily life melted away. The gentle illumination, the faint shimmer of fish passing overhead, the low hum of the ocean current, it all wove a tapestry of quiet. Her heart seemed to slow in response, matching the careful pace of water that drifted through the corridors of Atlantis. Little by little, Arya found herself lulled into a daydream, that pleasant realm halfway between waking and sleep, where thoughts dissolved into images and the present moment expanded into something vast and comforting. Once the sense of peaceful rest had settled over her, Arya continued deeper into the coral gardens, finding narrow passages that led into even more wondrous spaces. One such passage curved around a column of living coral, tall as a tower, its branches studded with small, glowing polyps that flickered like distant stars. The corridor twisted softly, leading her to a hidden lagoon at the heart of the reef. Here, the water felt especially warm, likely heated by undersea vents that gently exhaled streams of soothing heat. In that lagoon's center, a bed of soft seagrass swayed in slow motion, forming a gently rocking cradle for the creatures that called it home. Small crabs, delicately painted with patterns of turquoise and rose, peeked from beneath the waving tendrils. Occasionally, a timid seahorse would emerge, bobbing up and down before slipping back into the safety of the greenery. Pale light cascaded from above, illuminating tiny particles in the water that danced with the slightest movement, creating a magical haze that seemed to blur the line between dream and reality. Arya settled down at the edge of this lagoon, letting one hand graze the water's surface, feeling the mild warmth seep into her skin. She watched as a pair of graceful jellyfish drifted by, their translucent forms pulsing gently in the current. The moments passed slowly, and she allowed herself to be entranced by the mesmerizing dance of these creatures. Their long tendrils glowed faintly, swishing and swirling, as though they traced out a subtle lullaby in the depths. Now and then, she gently closed her eyes and listened to the hush around her. The ocean had a way of making its presence known in quiet pulses, as if the very heart of Atlantis kept time with the watery world outside. Each lull in the current was an invitation to sink deeper into contentment, to drift without the weight of thought. And so, as the minutes turned into something even gentler than hours, Arya remained in reverie. her mind wandering through the hush of old tales and lullabies told by coral guardians. In the city above her, life went on in its unhurried way. Artisans shaped delicate shells into jewelry, humming old songs under their breath. Gardeners nurtured sea plants in carefully tended grottos, smiling as schools of fish wove between the gently swaying fronds. Children peeked around corners, playing quiet games of discovery, enthralled by the shifting lights and shadows. Even the architecture of Atlantis exuded calm. Rounded domes and sweeping windows framed with coral filigree, each shape blending seamlessly with the environment. For them, the ocean was not just a backdrop, but a partner, supporting every breath they took. And so, as Aria rose from the lagoon and turned her steps back toward the city, she walked in harmony with the fluid lull of the water. Each stride was soft and languid, and her cloak curled around her ankles with a sleepy grace. The coral gardens receded behind her, their lights dimming to a gentle glow, as if bidding a fond farewell. Before long, the grand arches of Atlantis appeared, framing the slow dance of passing fish and the drifting shapes of shell-like homes. She stopped by a small courtyard near the center of the city. In a recessed alcove stood a swirling mosaic of mosaic tiles depicting the story of Atlantis's transformation. Pale tiles depicted the city's distant days above the waves, while deep blue and turquoise segments showed the descent into the ocean's embrace. The mosaic glimmered in the faint underwater light, each tiny tile carefully placed to reflect the gentle story of change and acceptance. Aria gazed at it, recalling the bedtime tales that Atlantean elders often told, how the ocean itself had invited the city to sink, granting it a safe haven from the winds and storms of the surface. It was said that each citizen, in their heart, had welcomed the ocean's lull, choosing a tranquil life filled with the quiet songs of whales and the glow of underwater gardens. Wandering through the winding lanes, she passed columns festooned with spiraling shells, their interiors shimmering with mother-of-pearl. Softly glowing lanterns hung at intervals, lighting the pathways in gentle tones of pink and violet. The Atlantean twilight was perpetual. No harsh sun or inky blackness visited these streets. Instead, the city existed in an endless hush of dim light, perfect for those who sought a constant sense of calm. Even so, life was not static. Shoals of fish provided a gentle hum of activity, as did the graceful dance of sea turtles drifting through the open arches. Occasionally, a manta ray glided overhead, casting a shadow that moved like a serene phantom along the city walls. Further along, Aria came upon a broad plaza, where coral pillars soared high into the currents. At the plaza's center was a tranquil fountain, not spouting water, since water was all around, but circulating gentle streams of shimmering bubbles. The bubbles rose and burst with a delicate, tinkling chime. They seemed to carry light within them, scattering it in mild prisms that refracted into soft rainbows across the plaza floor. Arya watched them float upward, each bubble reflecting a tiny world before dissolving into a mosaic of color. She stepped closer, letting a few of them brush her fingertips, and felt a pleasant tingle of warmth as they burst. In the hush of that moment, she began recalling a legend told among Atlanteans, that these bubbles carried the memories of old Atlantis. If one listened carefully, they might hear faint echoes of ancient songs, whispered by the city's forebears. To test the tale, Arya held her breath, closed her eyes, and opened her heart to whatever the bubbles carried. Though she heard nothing more than the hush of the ocean, she felt a gentle calm wash over her, as if the city itself were patting her shoulder in reassurance. Curious and at ease, Arya then made her way to the outskirts of the plaza, where a path curved around an old library built of pale coral stone. Its grand doors, carved with silhouettes of mythical sea creatures, stood partially open. Inside, rows of tall shelves rose up like columns, each bearing scrolls sealed in watery orbs. Unlike a library on land, here the knowledge was contained in luminous spheres, specially crafted to protect delicate pages from the ocean's embrace. The spines of these scrolls were wrapped in thin, translucent shells, embossed with delicate patterns. Drifting through the aisles, Arya ran her hands over the bubbles that encased the scrolls, feeling the slight vibration from within. Each text seemed to have its own gentle resonance, a soft hum that hinted at the stories and secrets they carried. The librarians, serene figures draped in layers of flowing fabric, moved quietly among the shelves, placing orbs back into their precise spots with care. The water parted around them like a silk curtain, never rushing, never forced. Even the library's atmosphere seemed designed for deep repose. Lanterns glowed in nooks, bathing the shelves in a mild, comforting light. The hush was profound, akin to the quiet after a gentle rain, where every sound felt muffled and distant. Arya paused at a reading alcove, drawn by the subtle glow of a coral lamp. She rested there, allowing her mind to wander, lulled by the gentle flicker of light and the barely perceptible sounds of water moving through the corridors. If one were looking for a place to drift into a dream, this library would have been the ideal harbor. After a while, she emerged, continuing along a path that led out of the city's central district. The water deepened in color, shifting to cooler blues as the structures became sparser. Here, the gentle hum of daily life subsided, replaced by an even more profound stillness. Very few ventured to the ocean's edge where Atlantis met the vast expanse of sea. Yet Arya felt called to see the coral reefs that lined the outer boundary, their forms glistening with the vibrant tapestry of marine life. Her journey took her through a tunnel shaped by ancient flowstones, the walls adorned with faint outlines of marine fossils that told of ages past. The corridor opened onto a grand vista, a sweeping view of the boundary reef where massive coral structures rose high, forming a naturally protective barrier around the city. Towering spires branched out like the arms of a living fortress, their surfaces alive with crustaceans, sponges, and dancing sea plants. A sense of awe filtered through Aria's mind as she beheld the quiet majesty of these reefs. Here, the water was filled with faint swirls of color, swirling plankton, drifting tendrils of seaweed, the occasional shimmer of a reflective fish scale. Graceful manta rays glided overhead, wings outstretched in a slow, hypnotic dance. Schools of fish shimmered in unison, turning as one, their silver bodies flashing in the half-light. If Aria listened closely, she could hear the subtle creak of coral growth, a soft music of life, expanding and flourishing in the quiet. She meandered through a narrow pass, her footsteps stirring small puffs of sand that swirled up before settling again. Tiny shrimp hopped among the coral branches, and sea stars of soft pastels clung to hidden grooves. Now and then, a gentle swirl of current caressed her face, reminding her of the ocean's unending embrace. She paused beside a particularly tall tower of coral, tracing its whirls and ridges with her eyes. It seemed to pulse with a gentle light, almost like the steady breathing of something vast and benevolent. Eventually, she came upon a hidden grotto in the reef's interior. Fragments of broken shells formed a natural mosaic on the grotto's floor, while overhead, the coral arched in a dome-like ceiling. Light filtered in through small openings, creating shifting patterns that drifted across the walls, reminiscent of quiet clouds in a dusky sky. Taking a few steps inside, she found a smooth rock on which to rest. This felt like a place meant for reflection, a tranquil corner where even the hustle of the city center could not intrude. There, Aria closed her eyes and allowed herself to become one with the soft hush of the water. Every sensation, her heartbeat, the drift of her hair, the subtle swirl of currents around her ankles, eased into a gentle rhythm. Time slowed even further, as though the grotto were a refuge beyond all clocks. She breathed steadily, imagining the coral's living presence around her, an undersea forest that had existed through countless tides and whispers of ancient storms. In that moment, she sensed a connection to everything: the city, the reefs, the fish, even the distant whales who occasionally passed through with their haunting calls. When her eyes drifted open again, she found that a small group of colorful fish had gathered near her feet, drawn perhaps by the calm of her presence. Their curious eyes peered at her, reflecting the light in shining droplets. She could feel their quiet acceptance, as though, in that moment, she belonged to their world completely. With a soft smile, Aria reached out, and the fish darted playfully around her hand, weaving between her fingers with a silent grace. Shortly thereafter, Aria rose, the gentle motion of water supporting her as she made her way back toward the main reef passage. She carried with her a sense of deep serenity, as though her day's wandering had infused her being with the ocean's unhurried rhythms. Her thoughts drifted in pleasant circles of calm, unbothered by concerns of what might lie beyond Atlantis's protective barrier. She felt cradled by the watery realm, supported by a timeless presence older and wiser than any single city could be. As she moved along, the colors of the reef began to deepen and shift, tinted by the approach of the ocean's later hours. Though day and night in Atlantis were not marked by the sun's rising or setting, the subtle changes in the water's hue gave the impression of evenings and mornings. The coral's glow softened, and creatures that thrived in dimmer waters emerged from hidden dens. Small, luminescent plankton scattered in the currents, dotting the water like tiny stars in a midnight sky. Their scattered twinkles created a soothing backdrop, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, gentle lights could be found. Returning to the city, Arya passed a wide terrace overlooking a silent oceanic valley. Here, she paused once more, leaning against a smooth coral railing to take in the vastness of the waters beyond. Shoals of silver fish shimmered in the distance, moving in wave-like patterns that seemed guided by an ancient, silent conductor. Arya let her mind wander, imagining the fish's perspective, swimming freely through open waters, content to glide under the watchful gaze of the moon that lay somewhere far above the surface. From within the city, a melodic chime sounded, marking the gradual shift toward a resting time. Soft ripples of bioluminescent orbs began to illuminate the doorways of nearby homes, guiding wanderers like Arya back to cozy alcoves, inviting them to settle into the hush of an Atlantean evening. She followed those lights, allowing her steps to slow. Each orb cast gentle patterns across the ground, swirling shapes that entwined like delicate vines. Without hurry, she navigated the labyrinth of coral buildings until she reached a small, shell-like home with a curved entrance. It was her space of respite, a peaceful haven that welcomed her gently. Inside, the walls were fashioned from smoothed coral, swirling in soft patterns reminiscent of distant waves. Furnishings were simple, formed from woven seagrasses and polished shells. A low bed draped in silky fabrics rested against one wall, partially lit by the soft glow of a bubble lamp. She placed a hand on its curved surface, and the warm luminescence within flickered, adjusting to the calm aura she carried. Slowly, Arya lowered herself onto the bed, settling against a pillow stuffed with fine sea moss. Her breathing matched the lamp's gentle pulse, the faintest rise and fall that echoed the ocean's lull. Eyes drifting half closed, she allowed the day's meanderings to unfold again in her thoughts. The shimmering coral, the curious fish, the library's hush. Each memory brought an even deeper sense of relaxation, as if her body and mind were floating on the gentle tide of Atlantis's embrace. The soothing waters that cradled the city also cradled her spirit, rocking her into a state of near slumber. She felt the weight of her eyelids grow heavier, and a mild warmth spread through her limbs, a pleasant heaviness that urged complete rest. Outside her window of translucent shell, The reef glowed in quiet patterns, as though singing a lullaby without words. Jellyfish drifted by like slow clouds, their forms gently illuminating the night. The hush of water caressing the coral structures mingled with the far-off calls of sea creatures, creating a gentle tapestry of sound that lulled all who heard it. Within Arya's home, a hush deeper than silence spread, carrying her gently toward the threshold of dreams. And so Atlantis rested. The city's countless denizens, each in their coral abodes or drifting among the quiet recesses of the reefs, gradually surrendered to the gentle pull of sleep. It was a communal lullaby, an entire realm turning inward as the mystical ocean sang them into restful peace. Perhaps in that shared dream, they ventured far beyond the waves, glimpsing wonders known only to the quiet. Perhaps they stayed among the reefs, exploring hidden grottos in the hush of the night. Whatever their dreams, they were guided by the warmth and safety of an ancient city cradled in the deep. Letting her breath slow, Arya sank further into a calm that transcended words, her eyes drifting fully shut as the watery hush enveloped her. In that final moment before she slipped into sleep, she thought of the coral gardens and their gentle glow, of the swirling bubble fountain in the plaza, of the library's silent orbs, and of the hidden grotto's tender warmth. All these images merged into one shimmering tapestry of drowsy wonder, drifting softly in her mind until sleep took her hand and drew her into blissful rest. Now, dear traveler, let your own breathing sink into that same tranquil rhythm. Feel the softness of your own resting place. Imagine the gentle pulse of the ocean around you. See the glowing reefs in your dreams. Let your limbs grow heavy, releasing the weight of the day. The hush of Atlantis is here with you, echoing in the spaces between your thoughts. Every gentle beat of your heart resonates with that soothing, underwater lull, guiding you deeper into relaxation. Slowly, your body unwinds further, and your mind becomes light and free, as though floating in the warm currents of a silent sea. Let your eyelids close fully now, if they haven't already. Let the images of coral spires, glowing bubble fountains, and tranquil reefs drift softly through your thoughts, each vision a lullaby of color and calm. Your breaths lengthen into contentment, and each exhale eases you closer to sweet slumber. Feel the peaceful hush spread across every part of you, from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. You are safe in this quiet moment, gently buoyed by the silent lull of the sea. No tension remains, no worries linger. Like Arya, you can let yourself be gently cradled by the rhythm of this ancient ocean. Let its soft currents carry you effortlessly, guiding you to a realm where dreams shimmer like distant stars. Good night, dear traveler. May the enchanting hush of Atlantis grant you a deep, peaceful rest. Sleep well.